Time to learn our memory verse. It is Monday morning. Time to learn our memory verse. It is Monday morning. Time to learn our memory verse. It is Monday morning. Time to learn our memory verse. Welcome to Memory Monday. Today, we have a story and a song, and I'm very excited. They're about how Jesus saves us. Today's memory verse is 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. Can you kids say that with me? 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. Now let's get to the story. Asher stretched his arms between the rows of jars cluttering the kitchen counter, trying to retrieve the bouncy ball that had slipped from his grasp. His eyes darted around the jars that were filled with tomatoes, cucumbers, and green beans. Ever since the garden had started producing in abundance, Granny had been canning non-stop. He couldn't wait for her to finish. Granny noticed him struggling and chuckled softly. Here, let me help you, bud. She reached between the jars and handed the ball back to him. But before you run off, let's work on your children's church memory verse. Asher smiled and nodded, eager to show off what he had learned. Together they recited 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. Well done, my boy, Granny said, tousling his hair. You've been practicing, haven't you? Asher beamed, his teeth flashing in a proud grin. I have. I want to get more points than Tommy this time. Miss Jana said there's a prize bigger than we've ever had, and last quarter Tommy beat me. Granny chuckled as she twisted the lid onto a jar. If you keep it up, I'd say you have a great chance to win. Thanks, Granny, Asher replied. He hesitated for a second before asking, Are you going to finish canning soon? Granny wiped her hands on her apron and smiled. Oh, not too much longer, sweetheart. Soon the frost will come and the garden will stop producing. But I need to preserve as much as I can now. Fresh veggies don't last long, but once they're sealed in these jars, they'll be good for years. Asher nodded thoughtfully. He loved that Granny worked hard to take care of him ever since Mom and Dad went to heaven. What are you canning today? He asked. Pickles, sweet, dill, and bread and butter, she said, her eyes twinkling with excitement. I love your bread and butter pickles, Asher exclaimed. Granny pointed to the jars, waiting on the counter. Those are up next to be canned. Once they've had their turn in the canner, they'll be ready for the pantry. Just then, the timer beeped, and Granny grinned. Speaking of the canner, those baby dills are ready to come out. As Granny busied herself with retrieving the jars from the giant pot of boiling water, Asher had an idea. He glanced at the pickles waiting to be canned and thought of the upcoming sleepover in the treehouse. Granny always let him take pickles whenever he wanted, so why not grab a jar now for a special snack? Without a second thought, he snatched one from the lineup and dashed outside, tucking it away in the treehouse for safekeeping. As he settled into his treehouse, Asher recited his memory verse again, just to make sure he had it down for Sunday. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. Satisfied with his recall, he climbed down and spent the rest of the afternoon building a sandcastle in the yard. Finally, the day of the sleepover arrived. The weather was cooling, but Granny assured him as long as they had sleeping bags in the treehouse, they would be warm enough. When Landon and Owen arrived, they didn't waste any time. They darted up to the treehouse, eager to squeeze a game of hide-and-go-seek before the sunset. The evening flew by with games and laughter. Just as dusk settled, Granny called from the back porch, Pizza and soda's here! The boys raced to the deck, grinning from ear to ear. Granny smiled at them, her eyes twinkling. I'm having a salad tonight, so how about you boys take your pizza up to the treehouse? Really? Asher asked, his excitement bubbling over. Granny chuckled. Yes, really. You just have to be sure to clean up afterwards, or you'll have ants joining your sleepover. We promise, Landon declared, and Owen chimed in. You're the best, Granny. The boys grabbed their food and drinks, scurrying back to the treehouse. Once they finished eating, Landon suddenly remembered the special treat. Oh, I almost forgot. We've got Granny's famous pickles. Asher smiled proudly and grabbed the jar that he had hidden earlier. These are her bread and butter pickles. You're gonna love them. But as soon as he unscrewed the lid, a foul stench hit them. Ew, they all shouted, covering their noses. What is that? Owen asked, backing away. Does Granny always make her pickles smell that bad? No way, Asher said, frowning. Granny's pickles never smell like this. Landon squinted at the jar. Look, there's something green and fuzzy on the top. Maybe it's the bread, Owen suggested. Asher shook his head. There's no bread in bread and butter pickles. Landon laughed. I've had these before, and they definitely didn't smell or look like that. Let's ask Granny what's wrong, Asher suggested, eager to clear up the mystery. They rushed back into the house and found Granny rinsing her salad bowl in the sink. Asher held up the jar. Granny, what's wrong with these pickles? Granny turned and gasped. Oh my stars! Where did you get that jar? It's from the counter when you were canning a few weeks ago. I figured you wouldn't mind, so I took it to the treehouse for the sleepover. Granny grinned knowingly and grabbed a fresh jar from the pantry. Ah, I see what happened. Come, boys, let's all sit at the table. They followed her, curious about what she'd say. Granny held up the moldy jar and pointed to the fuzzy top. See this? That's mold. These pickles went bad. Landon wrinkled his nose. Obviously. Granny chuckled. Now, look at the date on this jar from the pantry. Asher's eyes widened. These pickles are 3 years old. Yup, and they're still good, Granny said. Owen looked puzzled. But how is that possible? Granny smiled. Because these were preserved. When I can them, the boiling water they sit in seals the jars tight, and that keeps out air and bacteria. The jar you took was waiting to be canned, so it wasn't sealed yet. Air got in, and the pickles spoiled. The boys nodded, starting to understand. Then Granny's eyes twinkled. This reminds me of the memory verse you were working on. Do you remember it? They all grinned and recited together. 2 Corinthians 5:17. If anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away. Behold, the new has come. Exactly, Granny said. Just like the canning process preserves the food, Jesus preserves us. Without him, our hearts spoil, just like these pickles. But when we are sealed in his love and live in him, we're saved from the rot of sin. Landon's eyes lit up. That's awesome! It sure is, Granny agreed. Jesus keeps our hearts fresh and new. Asher smiled. I'll never forget that now. Whenever I think of pickles, I'll remember how Jesus saved me from my sin. Me too, Owen added. I don't want any of that moldy stuff in my life. Granny chuckled as they shared fresh pickles. Out with the old and in with the new, right, boys? Right, they all cheered, grateful for both the pickles and the lesson. The end. I hope you enjoyed today's story. Now, let's hear a song about the story and our memory verse. See ya. Love you. Bye-bye.
Look at this jar left out for a while. The smell, oh boy, it ain't our style. Old and stale, it's turned away, just like a life's apart from God's way. But there's another jar, sealed up tight. It's fresh and good, it's just right. It's been preserved, saved and sealed, like our lives when God's love is revealed. But there's another jar, sealed up tight. It's fresh and good, it's just right. It's been preserved, saved, and sealed, like our lives when God's love is revealed. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says about salvation, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, behold, the new has come. We're like those stars in this world each day. All of the people have gone astray, but when we ask Jesus in our hearts and live in His love, we're fresh and new from heaven above. Just like the child that's been saved and sealed, God's love for us is so real. Ask Him in and He'll make you new, just like a fresh jar through and through. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says about salvation, if anyone is in Christ, he is a new creation. The old has passed away, behold, the new has come. We live in Him, yeah. Our lives are made brand new. We live in Him, yeah. Out with the old,